Welcome to FT Expression Show. I am Stacey B. Today we have an amazing guest named Micheal G Hawkins. He performed gospel and jazz music on a flute. Check him out right now.
That was Blessed Assurance.
Welcome.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, and you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, you playing the flute.
Yes.
It's amazing for me. But what made you pick the flute?
Actually, it was my dad that influenced me. When I was in 5th grade, I wanted to play the saxophone. And my dad looked at the price at that time, and at that time it was $600, so it was quite expensive. He looked at the flute, and he looked at the clarinet, and they were the cheapest instruments. So he said, you either play the flute or the clarinet or nothing at all. So I said, all right, I'll play the flute. I didn't want to play the flute at first because I was always the only boy playing in the marching band when I was in school, and I thought the flute was a girl's instrument. But then as I grew up and I saw guys play the flute, that encouraged me to get back into it, and I'm glad I did. It sat under my bed for 3 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, it sat under my bed for 3 years, and then it got to the point where my mother told me, she said, if you're not going to play the flute, you need to just go and get rid of it. And something told me, don't do it, don't do it. At that time, I didn't know it was the Lord actually working in my life to develop the talent. But something just said, don't do it. And I told her, I said, no, I'll keep it. But then after I told her I was going to keep it, it sat under my bed for another year. Yeah, but when we were living in Germany, my parents had taken me to a function, and I saw a guy play the flute at that time. And my mother looked at me and she said, "See, guys do play the flute." And I looked at him and he was good. And I looked at him and I said, "Wow, I would like to play the flute like that one day." And that's what got me back into it. And when I was living in Germany, there was really nothing to do. So what I did, I played with top 40 songs. Songs that were popular in the 70s. I would sit there and I would listen to the music. And I would start playing my flute with the music. Needless to say, I didn't know the Lord was developing my talent at that time. So that now I can hear a note and tell you what the note is now. So some people call it perfect pitch. I just call it having an ear for music. And so that's how I got started.
Wow, that's beautiful. Now, you said $600.
At that time, the saxophone was $600, yes.
And you know what year that was? Because $600 is a lot of money for me.
Yeah. Well,
so today, what it run now?
Well, now a saxophone is going to cost you, a good one's going to start at about at least $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah, a really good one. Yeah, so of course, the value of money being more back then, it costs more money-wise, but then of course as the dollar deflates, you have to pay more to maintain the same lifestyle that you had back in the 70s. So that $600 now is probably about $1,200, $1,300 now.
Yes, that is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. For your child is to put on that bed.
Right. But the saxophone was the cool instrument, so all the other guys wanted to play the saxophone, and I did too. So I probably would not have had that. Yes,
Any kids?
I have one son, he's 19 years old.
Playing music?
He started out playing music, but I think he's more into sports.
Okay.
Yeah, he started out with the drum, then he went to the violin, and now he's a good basketball player. I used to beat him in basketball, but I can't do it anymore. He's taller than me and he's faster.
All right, okay. So he might come back to the drums later on. He might lay down for a minute.
It depends on what he wants to do. Whatever he does, I support him.
Okay. Now, you go to different places and play, and you
Yes.
told me you also listen to other people play.
Yes.
So when you listen to their music, you say you get inspired, so tell me a music song that come to you.
Yes, and as I said before, if you get to the point where you're not willing to learn, I can learn from a kid playing a musical instrument. Because really, it's about being humble. You know, I've come across some musicians who had great attitudes, and that actually taught me a lot. And then there were some, of course, who did not have good attitudes. But really, if you're humble, God can teach you a lot, and He'll bring people across your path that show you things you never thought of doing. And an idea can come to you just like that. Just for the sake of discussion, I remember many years ago when I was in high school, there was this girl, and see, I was a new kid on the block. I had just come back from Germany, and it was in the high school that I attended. It started off as 12th chair. There was 12 flute players. I was 12th chair, and within a month, I went from number 12 to number 2. And this young lady, her name was Phyllis. And I mean, she was good. She could read music. I don't care how hard it was. She could read music. And I tried my best to take her chair, and I couldn't do it. But the thing is, if you took the music away from her, she didn't have an ear. But she could read her music first time, get it right perfectly. And that taught me something that day. That taught me that no matter how good you are, there's always somebody better. And I never forgot that. This was in high school. Because, you know, you go from number 12 to number 2, you're thinking, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm getting there. But she humbled me very quickly. Okay. And that's how I've never forgot that lesson.
Now, being out here today with music, do you think it's hard to get out here and be successful playing?
Yes, and well, actually, yes and no. I would say no, because the technology is there so that anybody can put a professional quality music project together. They can do it in their home because of digital technology. That has helped a lot. Yes, because the music industry has made it so that it's difficult. For example, if you look, for example, one of the things I like to do is to have my music in commercials. One of the things that they look for, they'll say, well, for example, we want to have a particular sound. A lot of the radio stations are like that. We want a certain sound that fits our format. And if it doesn't have that format, then we don't want your music. So really what I've noticed is that the music industry has pretty much stifled the creativity of musicians because we want to have a sound, for example, like a smooth jazz sound like Boney James. Well, my thinking is that if you want Boney James sound, get Boney James to play it, you know. But what I guess really what I would say is that they want maybe a cheap imitation because I don't know. But that's one of the things that I've learned is that you have, for example, certain radio stations that they won't even return your calls. You know, if you're not in the top 40, they won't return your calls. Or if you are an unsigned artist, you know, you're independent. Some of them will play your music, some of them won't. And I must say that fortunately, not all radio stations like that, but you have a few that are like that. So don't even call me because we're not going to return your calls. Or every time you call them, leave a message, it'll go straight to voicemail. So in that case, it makes it harder.
How do you get on the top 40 if nobody plays music?
Well, I think part of the solution is good backing, and that's where your record companies have the advantage. They have good ties with radio stations. You have marketing companies that will promote artists, and that's the advantage that they have. So, but the catch-22 is that a lot of your people who are signed on the labels, they want the rights to your music for a specified period of time. So that's where it can get catchy because from what I've learned is that if you're signed with a label, you're really taking a risk because the label may invest money in you to market you, but they're going to get their money back before you get anything. So if you sell well, then you'll do well. But if not, then it's risky to take money. And a lot of these labels now, they want musicians or artists who already have a following. You know, the days of cultivating musicians is pretty much over with, from what I've learned. You know how in the 60s and the 70s, you know, a record company would take a chance on you. If they see talent, they'll do what they can to groom you and promote you. But now what I've learned is they want somebody who's already established and they already have a fan base, and they want to see that fan base. And then, if you look like you have a pretty good fan base, then they'll work with you at that point.
Okay. So you have to actually start building your fan base.
Right. So, which is what I'm in the process of doing now.
So that's where people go into different plays and playing the music
Yes.
here and there to build your fan base to get the followers there.
Exactly.
So somebody can pick you up.
Yes.
So it actually is a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But one thing I can say is that the internet really helps a lot. I have a Facebook page. If you go to Micheal G Hawkins, you'll find me on Facebook. And there are radio stations overseas that are playing my music. I was glad to hear that. And I can kind of understand why a lot of your musicians go overseas because it's unfortunate, but a lot of the foreigners will support you before your people in your home will support you. Yeah, because I have music played at Armed Forces Radio and various stations in Australia, but it's pretty much internet stations, but it's growing.
It's growing.
Yeah, it's growing.
And that's what it is, because you never know who's listening to it.
Right.
So we're going to go to the next level.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. And like you said, I understand when you go to different places, you never know who will hear you.
Right.
You know, who's there. You know, they're going to ask you to play it the next day and who they know.
Yeah, yes.
You know, what connection they
it's
have.
Networking, yes. Because even on my Facebook page, I'm networking with people all over the world. And it's a good opportunity just to get your music out there. See, that was not available to us 20, 30 years ago.
Correct.
So that's that's what makes music easier because of Facebook and the internet. And now you can email your songs. In fact, I remember the studio that I worked at was in Oklahoma. And when I went out there to do a recording, and then when I heard it again, I said, I don't quite like that solo that I did. So I was able to do the recording over here in a local studio, and then email it to them in Oklahoma, and they just dubbed it in with what they had recorded. So, and that technology was not available 20 years ago, but it's available now, and just don't tell them what they're going to be doing in the near future with the digital age that we have now.
Yes. Yeah, I couldn't believe when they took records away.
Yeah. But the CD sounds better.
It does. And CD sound much better, and MP3 music too sounds good too.
MP4s now.
Oh yeah, that's what MP4s.
Yeah.
You know, I'm still behind. I'm like,
Yeah, don't feel bad. My mom just got a cell phone 2 years ago, and she just learned how to text. So, love you, Mom, but it is what it is.
Yes, that's the thing. And I'm definitely with that. 'Cause I'm like, by the time I catch up, it's been new or something else.
Yeah.
But definitely. So, what's your advice for younger people, the young crowd coming up? They think they want to be out there in the music business. You know, it's not always American Idol out there.
Right, that is true.
They grab them like that.
My suggestion is don't give up. There's always going to be somebody to tell you what's wrong with your music. Look at it as constructive criticism, learn from it, but don't give up. Because if that were the case, I would not have had a CD made at all. You know? Another thing that I would suggest is try to keep a positive profile, positive image. There's a lot of good talent out here, and some of them use it negatively, and some of them use it positively. Because the thing you have to remember is that regardless of what you're doing, if you're a public figure, for example, people are watching you, and a lot of times they will look to you as a role model. And even though music might be your means of achieving your goal, they're looking at you as, well, how are you conducting yourself on a regular basis? So keep the nose clean as much as possible, and don't give up. That's the advice that I would recommend to anybody, not only in music but in life in general.
Yes. And I agree with you about you never know who's looking at you, who's following you. Because it's my nephew that who saw you and was like, and wouldn't come up and speak to you and was close near you, but he was scared to speak to you. And he just got to meet you a couple of months ago. Yeah. And he was so excited. I was liking that. So I was like, wow.
And that got me thinking, I said, man, am I that unapproachable? I don't want to portray that kind of image, so I got to constantly check myself.
Yeah. But I don't know, he just shocked. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But you never know who's admiring what you're doing and just take, how you playing music. Like, wow. Like you said, when you saw that person playing the flute, they looking at you as well and saying, I wish I could play like that.
Yeah, and I'm glad I stuck with it because now you see a whole lot of male flautists. They're everywhere. For example, there's Dave Valentine. He's a good male flautist. And of course, Herbie Mann. He's been around for years. So, it's there.
Yes.
I'm glad I stuck with it.
That's a good thing. Now, what's you got planned for the future?
Videos? I will eventually like to put out another project. But what I'm focusing on now is I would like to have my music played in commercials, soundtracks and movies, on the radio, the television. So really my focus now is marketing my music. And I pretty much have given myself a year. My project was released last August, so it's only about 7 months old, so it's relatively new. But I would say if I don't have everything that I need by, say, August of this year, then it's time to go and look into doing another project. So really my focus now is marketing my music. And I'd like to see the movies.
But it take longer than a year to marketing yourself, right?
It depends. Now, if I was on a label, for example, it would be much sooner because they have the deep pockets to market you, put your music on the radio and in the retail stores. So that's really the big advantage that they have over independent artists is that they have the financial backing to push you out there. But at the same time, the risk is you don't have rights to your own music. That's pretty much what I've learned. And what other people have told me, it's a catch-22. We'll market you, but we want to have rights to your music so we can do what we want to do with it. And then after a certain period of time, then you get the rights back to your music. Usually it's about 2 years that they would want to have the rights to your music. So if your music is tied up, then what are you going to do if you can't do anything else with it because it's tied up with one entity?
That's why you hear some artists say they haven't made no money.
Right, exactly. They haven't made any money because the record company isn't making it.
Right, and we feel like they making plenty of money. Everybody's out here playing music, you on the top left, but then they may not make it.
Exactly.
And so that's what make it harder because I keep hearing you saying independent artists. So independent artist is when a person do their own, put their own, promote themselves.
Right.
And get their name out themselves.
Exactly. That's what I would recommend. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, even your artists that have been established with the record company, the advantage that they have is they have the names, and they've made a name for themselves. They've sold a lot of CDs, and once their contract is up with their record company, then they can become independent because they have the name back. So in that sense, if you do very well, then you could pretty much market your own self just by the name that you have associated with you.
And there's actually a lot of artists out there now that are independent and do have the name and have a following. They're still not signing with a record company. They're staying independent because you said, you know, they might feel it's better for them that way after they even got established.
Yes, definitely, because, and as I said before, the internet has helped a lot. The internet has opened up many channels so that you can get your music overseas. That was not available to us 20, 30 years ago. So, and I've been pushing that. And again, the Facebook page, if you go and look at my Facebook page, you know, you'll see a picture of me holding my flute. And there's one particular radio station overseas that's in Italy that just started playing my music last week. So it's growing slowly but surely.
Growing slowly but surely. That's what it means. Because by the time it gets blowed up, you be ready for it.
Right, be ready for it. Exactly.
So you go marketing. So what kind of ways you can market? You are marketing yourself, you know, your music, other than going out playing different places. What other way do you market yourself? Are you calling the overseas, or the overseas just hearing your music?
Right now they're just hearing my music because, and as I mentioned before, the internet really is the primary way that I'm marketing my music overseas. Here, locally, I play in different venues, and that's how I get my name out locally. There are a couple of radio stations in this area that's playing my music, so that's good.
So do you send your record out to all over the United States, different record companies? Or are you staying on the East Coast?
I'd like to get it out as any way possible. East Coast, West Coast, Central, you know. But primarily the internet does that because what I like about it is that you can submit your music to radio stations online. And if they like your music, they'll send you an email telling you that we'll play it and it's going to be in rotation. And it's actually much cheaper doing it that way because if you send a CD out to a radio station, first of all, it costs money. You got to buy the CD. You have to mail it. And then the radio station may not listen to it. So it's really inefficient business-wise to do that because you don't know what kind of results you're going to get from doing that. It can be very expensive. So to answer your question, how do I market my music? Just email my songs to them or go to their website and submit it to the radio stations. And if they like it, fine. If they're not, well, it's not going to cost you anything to do that.
Wow. And that takes a lot of time.
It does. It takes a lot of time, a lot of discipline, and you have to be focused to do that.
You got to stay focused. I know. You work the internet, you have to be focused to even do your research to find the radio stations and then to find the email and find the right person to send it to.
Exactly right.
And then constantly send them something over and over. Because I know if you send it one time and don't hit it, you don't stop.
Right.
You'll go back and send it again later. Right.
Exactly.
So you got to keep your notes together.
Right. And then there are some that they will pretty much will give you the hint that they don't want your music. I'll give you an example. There was a local radio announcer here, we won't call no names, but they asked me to send them a CD, and I did. That was one of the rare occasions that I would actually send a CD. I hand-delivered it to them, and followed up a couple of days later, they lost it. Okay, so I said, well, how about if I email it to you? Fine, email it to me. I emailed my songs to them, followed up a week later, never returned my calls, and never responded to my emails. So that told me, well, this is giving me the runaround. So in that case, I just stopped. So there's more radio stations than just that one.
Okay. So on all the songs you wrote on your track, which one is your favorite?
My favorite song is Peace and Happiness. That seems to be the song that is preferred by the radio stations because that song is actually being played on your secular smooth jazz stations and on the gospel stations. So to answer your question, Peace and Happiness.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure being here.
Jesus makes me happy. He gives me joy. He gives me life abundantly. He makes me happy. Jesus makes me happy. He gives me joy. He gives me life abundantly. He makes me happy.
That was Blessed Assurance. That was Strolling with Jesus.